everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. We're delighted that you have joined us for this very special session where we will be focusing on the movement to end child marriage. We'll be looking at some of the work that key players in this movement are doing, and we're going to be making a visit to the beautiful and complex country of the Dominican Republic. Now, my name is Mabel van Oranje, and I'm a human rights activist. I'm the founder of several backbone organizations that are operating in the field to end child marriage. I'm a board member of a VOW for girls. And maybe most importantly, I'm a mother of 2 teenage girls. And I'm acutely aware that if they had been born elsewhere in the world, both of them might be child brides by now. Now, the reason why the Girls First Fund and its sister organization VOW for Girls were created is fairly simple. Doing my work on ending child marriage, I kept meeting people who said, "Oh, this seems to be such an important cause. I wish that I could donate and make sure that money goes to the ground where it makes the biggest difference." And at the same time, in my travels all over the world, I kept meeting amazing groups working at a grassroots level, doing all kinds of very innovative and important work to end child marriage. But that work was limited by a lack of resources, and they did not know how to get in contact with big donors, or small donors for that matter. And all this changed when, about 7, 8 years ago, I went to a wedding, and a couple, these friends of mine, said, "Look, please make a donation to this good cause that we care deeply about." And that was a light bulb moment. I realized, what if we can mobilize the wedding industry and everybody who's celebrating happy moments through VOW for Girls, to make sure that then its sister organization, the Girls First Fund, gets funding that it can give directly to the organizations on the ground that are making a real difference. And so that's where all of this started. Now, I was really happy that I could join the recent trip by the Girls First Fund and VOW for Girls to the Dominican Republic. We met country leaders, including the First Lady and ministers. We met local organizations doing amazing work. We met activists, and we met countless of girls who were standing up for their rights and trying to live the lives they want to live. Now, what I took away from that trip is that child marriage, the way it happens, is different everywhere all over the world. In the case of the Dominican Republic, often related to issues of sexuality. It is a lot of the machismo plays a role there. The church, is a factor. But what I also took away is that anywhere in the world, everywhere in the world, change is actually possible. If you support people who are doing good work on the ground, you see girls staying out of marriage and in school and living the lives they want to live. So thanks for joining on this journey that we're going to have to share with you some of the things that we learned. And we're going to have a presentation followed by Q&A and have questions. And you can start asking questions in the chat whenever you want. And then we also will have a call for action, so to make sure that you all know what you can do to contribute. Now, the 2 people who are going to lead us on this journey are 2 dear colleagues, friends, leaders of work in this field. One is Diana Hernandez Veras, who is the Girls First Fund program advisor for the Dominican Republic. And she coordinates all the programs that are being supported in the Dominican Republic and plays also a critical role in creating partnerships between all these different efforts. The other panelist is Clay Dunn. He is VOW's first CEO. He joined the organization very shortly after it was launched in 2019. And under his leadership, we have seen the team expand. We have seen the community of supporters, including many of you are here, expand. And most importantly, maybe, he is the one who's driving the ambitious plans that we have to unlock more funding so that we can support more girls who are at risk of child marriage. Clay and Diana, over to you.
Thank you, Mabel, and thank all of you for joining us today. It's a real honor to be able to first go and visit a place like the Dominican Republic where we're doing this important work, but also an honor to bring you along. So thank you for giving part of your day today. I'm so happy, Diana, that you were able to join us and that you were able to take us on this trip. Diana and I have a few questions today to sort of kick off the conversation. But before we get started, I want to echo what Mabel said, which is that we really want to hear your questions, and we have ample time to talk about those today. So, start firing your questions into the chat box. We would love to take your questions and answer them, and excited to do that. You can put them in at any time. So, Diana, it was such a treat to spend time with you in the Dominican Republic. You and I have seen each other in other parts of the world, but this is our first time going to the DR together and to learn from all of these amazing local partners. You've been leading this work for 5 years now in the Dominican Republic, and I was hoping you could start by giving our viewers a little bit of an overview of the context of child marriage and what's happening with girls' rights in the DR.
Thank you so much to our sister organization, VOW, for the invitation. Hi, Mabel. Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Hernandez, the program advisor for the Dominican Republic with Girls First Fund. And we are so excited to continue engaging in conversations to talk about the work we are supporting in DR. Going back to your question, as you probably know, Latin America and the Caribbean is one of the most unequal regions in the world. Despite global momentum on this issue, there is still a lack of visibility and awareness of child marriage and early union in the region. In the case of the Dominican Republic, more than a third of Dominican girls still marry before they turn 18. 1 in 5, ages 15 and 19, are married or in a union with a man at least 10 years older, making us one of the countries with the highest rates of child marriage in the region. And some of the challenge we face is that the phenomenon is concentrated in adolescent girls who are in informal unions marked by cohabitation without any civil or religious ceremony. So these informal unions often appear to be consensual and tend to be seen neither as a marriage or not involving children. And as such, different terms are used. We have child marriage, forced child marriage, early wedding, cohabitation, making the problem more difficult to eliminate. It's important to highlight that our current president, who assumed the government in 2020, promulgated a law in 2021, which eliminates child marriage and declared the articulation for a child marriage policy and the fight against women and girls' violence a high national priority. As Dominican, we celebrate this decision. But the challenge the law faces is regulating early unions, particularly due to cultural norms and the legal loopholes. This is why it's so important conversation like this and continue supporting and trusting community-based organizations who are uniquely positioned to understand the nuance of the context and engage community members to meaningful change from the ground up. And speaking of seeing these efforts in action, it was a lot of fun to host you on your first trip to the Dominican Republic. How did it feel to see this work in person after following for years?
I've been leading VOW now for a little more than 4 years. And, in my very first week with the organization, Dominican Republic was one of the first conversations that I had. And I remember there was these images that were shared of girls who were being impacted by the programming that local partners are doing there. One of them was this girl, Ariana, who then when we went on this trip just a few months ago, I saw Ariana in person more than 4 years later. Like, it was like seeing a celebrity for me, right? And here's Ariana, still in school, still focused on her future. And I loved that moment and getting to see her, but also these incredible local leaders, largely local women, who are leading this change in their communities and changing this norm that says that girls aren't deserving of their own choices. It's really exciting. as we see in other places where we're working, right? Like what these local leaders are doing in terms of creating safe spaces for girls and, making sure that they know what their rights are, know what to do if those rights are being infringed on. To give people who are listening kind of a sense of the scope of what we saw in the DR. On the first trip, we went to visit a local partner called Mudha, and they really focus on Dominicans of Haitian descent. They're a segment of the population that has the rampant discrimination that they face. And, in this situation, we really saw the power of girl-led groups that keep girls safe and focus on skills and learning. On our second day, we went sort of further afield and we met with an organization that spanned a conversation with 3 generations of dedicated women who and girls who have sort of deeply rooted their work in the community. That organization called Mama Tingo. Again, we saw a girl there, Johanny, who 3 years ago we visited her and her mom to create some amazing videos and photography that brought her life sort of visible and like what she thinks about this issue. It was so great to spend time with Johanny again, to see her and her mom, to hear what she's excited about her future. Then on the third day, we went up on the coastline to Cabaret and spent time with the Mariposa Foundation. They have a really interesting program where they've taken a former motel property, have turned it into a center for girls, where a girl starts a program at age 7 and continues all the way until college, and then truly giving like long-term and hands-on support to girls to help them sort of navigate their futures. And the success that they're having in the community was just crazy inspiring. And then on our fourth day, we went out past the coffee hills and into the agricultural part of the country to visit an organization called Konamuka. And that started as a women's farmer collective and has now grown to, 200 organization confederation of organizations working for the rights of rural women and girls. Here we saw a clear links and heard about their work between what's happening with child marriage and the climate crisis, and how climate change is negatively impacting their farms and increasing poverty and therefore causing child marriage rates to increase. But these girls are really fighting back and with the support of their mothers and local women leaders. One thing that I really loved that a local group said, we asked, what's the biggest change that you've seen in 5 years? And one of the local leaders said, 5 years ago, you couldn't get these girls to say a word. They were so quiet. And now they won't stop talking. Like, they tell me everything that they think, which I loved. I was like, keep talking, girls. So good, so good. So Diana, we were so lucky to meet these local partners and get a close look at the work that they're doing. But the portfolio of what we're supporting in the DR is much larger than what we saw on the trip. Can you talk a little bit about how many organizations are being supported and what their collective work is doing to end child marriage in the DR?
Sure. The grant portfolio for the Dominican Republic consists of 27 organizations. We have organizations over 15 provinces of the 31 that the country have. And some of the most common primary interventions are girls' leadership, education, sexual and reproductive rights, and social norms change. 100% of the organizations are women-led, and over 80% of their staff identify as female. Those organizations working on social norms change are primarily around the issue of domestic violence and gender-based power. And one of the key advantages of the portfolio is that many of our grantees are allies, meaning that they have partnership with each other or have worked together in the past. As you mentioned, when you visit Muda, something that is very important for the portfolio is that we are serving 3 distinct communities. We are working with Dominican girls of Haitian descent, and Haitian girls. While there are similarities between them and overlap between the challenges they face, Dominican girls of Haitian descent and Haitian girls have less access to basic service as a result of institutionalized racism. I honestly so proud of the work grantees are doing, even with limited resources and in a challenging context. And this week, I was having a conversation with an organization that is providing legal support for domestic and sexual violence victims, and also girls who are in risk of child marriage. And one of the highlights that they mentioned was that during 2021, 42 girls get in an early union. However, thanks to the support that they've been providing to the girls and their family, they were able to continue their education. And in 2022 and from 2022 to 2023, only 5 girls get in a union. And I think this is an important shift in the way communities are supporting girls and the work grantees are doing. And it's a privilege, that I hold to work so closely with organization and here's some of the stories about change and impact they are doing. But I would like to hear from you. During your last visit, what do you think our guests will be the most interested or surprised to learn?
First of all, thank you for sharing that impact example. Like, a local organization seeing a drastic reduction of child marriage in their community. It's really inspiring to hear that, right? I think for me the Dominican Republic is one of a handful of countries that I've been able to visit to see the local work. And something that really was on my mind in the DR is that for so many people, right, like child marriage, you think about as something that happens far away from where we live and not in places that we go, right? Like, where in fact, like, this is really a truly global issue. It's happening everywhere. Happens in the US, happens in the DR. The DR, where it's happening at a really high rate, is a short 3-hour flight from where I live in New York, right? And it's a place where a lot of people I know go on vacation. They probably are, largely unaware of the problem when they're there. And it just really drove home for me how complex the country is. And when we make an effort to look at the realities of everyone who lives there. I think another thing that was on my mind is, while in each of the places I've visited, the reasons that child marriage is happening vary somewhat, and therefore, the solutions also vary. Like, Diana, our teams jointly believe, right, that people closest to problems are in the best position to identify their solutions, right? And while our local partners in Dominican Republic may be doing something really different than what we see in Nepal or Uganda or wherever, there really are some common themes, right? We see these like amazing local women who are so proud to be part of a larger movement, like creating truly safe spaces for girls to come together to talk about problems that they're having, to learn together, to create a network that supports one another. And seeing how that's happening across the DR, but also across the globe, thanks to this work, I just love seeing that, and like seeing how it comes to life with a little bit of a different flair in the DR. So thank you for taking us to see it. Before I go to the next question for Diana, we'd love to hear more questions from you. Pop them in the chat. I'm going to have one more question from Diana, and then we'll have a moment to answer some of our audience questions. So Diana, we have a 2-part question here. I'm going to ask the first part to you first. As you think about this work in the Dominican Republic 5 years in, and what you want to see in the future, what's one thing that's like keeping you up at night? What's one thing on your mind about the work?
As a program advisor, what keeps me up at night is meeting with organizations that struggle to support domestic violence victims, especially sexual abuse one, or girls who are facing deportation because they don't have enough resources. Every meeting reveals how hard it is for this group to provide the help that is needed, and they're constantly running low on money and staff. making it difficult to support project beneficiaries properly. So hearing the story of those who suffer and see the dedication of the team trying to help them highlight a troubling truth. There is far more need than there are resources to meet. So this ongoing struggle deeply concerns me, but at the same time motivates me to push for more funding and support for those essential programs. And despite the challenges, what give me hopes or keep me excited are the powerful sign of change. um I witness every time that I talk to grantees or when I visit the field, every time that I see an organization make a breakthrough, whether it's securing new funding, implementing a successful program, or girls are still in the program and in their path to finish their education, make me or reinforce my belief in our mission. And this moment of progress, through sometimes small, are powerful indicators that change is possible. So for me, that's what it is.
I love that. I love that. Thanks to everyone who's been submitting questions. We have a couple questions who have been popped in. We're going to go into, but keep going with your questions. We'd love to hear more of them. Diana, the first question that we have is, can you tell us what the role is of a program advisor? Like what is it that you do in this job, and how do you interact with these local organizations?
For sure. Interesting question. Well, in my role, I'm in charge of identified organizations that are able to connect with the mission and the vision that we as a team have. So we want to support local organizations to prevent child marriage in the country. My role is provide accompaniment and technical advice to this organization, but at the same time communicate the needs and the strategies that we need to have in country to my team in Philadelphia and everywhere where we are. So it's like I see it in a double way role, like support the team to understand the nuance and the needs of the context, and at the same time support an organization with their projects and their strategies to meet the goal of ending child marriage.
So that for those who weren't with us on the trip, I will share that like Diana has such incredible relationships with all these local organizations. Like it's so clear that they rely on her for advice and counsel. We of course are learning so much from them in return and what they're doing in their communities. But it was really special to see the kind of deep relationships that you hold with all these local leaders. Like really exciting. So congratulations on the relationships you've been building there. Yeah, our second question is something that we've raised a couple times in this conversation, are girls clubs or girls groups. Like, do you just share a little bit about what that looks like in a community?
Sure. Well, it's good to clarify. In the context of Dominican Republic, there is not a safe space for girls. Zero. Most community don't have like let's say a park, or they don't have like another community organization where they, girls can go. It's only the school and the church. And if it's a park, usually are boys who are using the park. So what organizations are creating is in a space that can look like a patio, that can look like one of the house of the mentor, where girls get together and learn about being a girl, like from basic information about sex and reproductive rights, or just to hang out with other girls and talk about their problems, their challenge, the families dynamic and things like that. And that is so important for girls having a space like this, because they are being supported to create their life project. They are encouraged to continue in school. They have reference and see, oh, my friend is doing this, my friend is doing that. We are all together in this group. So that's why it's so important for us to support this kind of group at community level.
That's great. Building on what you said about there not being many safe spaces for girls in the DR. Like one of the local leaders saying so clearly to us, it is still risky to be a girl in the Dominican Republic, right? Like that's something that really stuck with me. Um, the third question here is, in terms of the local partners that we're talking about, can you give them a sense of like what the grant size looks like? Like how much funding are we giving one of these partners?
The maximum amount that we are giving is $50,000. 50. I always have problems to pronounce 15 and 50. $50,000 per year. That's the maximum amount that we're giving. So we have different size, depends of their operational capacity. So we have grants that go from 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. So far, we have invested in the 5 years in the Dominican Republic around 3 million something supporting organizations. And we just approved the last round of proposal for the next 2 years with the same organizations.
That's great. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like, a grant of $50,000 to one of these local organizations represents a lot of money to that organization, like really helping them expand their programming.
Yes, it can help a lot.
Yeah.
Some of them, but not all of them receive this amount, because remember that we have small community-based organizations that we are the first donor. So they receive a smaller amount of our funds. But yes, some of them can do a lot with that money.
Yeah. Here's a really interesting question that we got, which is, do you see any pushback from people who are supportive of early marriage or child marriage, and how is that managed?
In our context, it's an interesting question, but not necessary. I think when you have this conversation with communities that they understand what is that we are saying, about child marriage, how this is negative in the life of girls, I haven't seen like a pushback saying, no, this is correct or not. The challenge is a lot of family go to poverty and a struggle, and we have the challenge of honor too. Like when a girl become the family or the community know that she becomes sexually active, it's this push to maintain her honor that they want to force her to get married. But I think honestly, when we give girls and family choices, real choices about pursuing education, pursuing a better life, dignity of life, I haven't encountered so far like that strong pushback about, that's the path that they want to follow.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. One final question for you. If we're sitting here 5 years from today, what do you expect this work to look like in the DR in 5 years? Like, what do you hope to see? What's your goal?
Can I dream?
Dream.
Personally, I want to us be a reference in the region. I want donors, when they think about Latin American and the Caribbean, they say, oh, let's see what's happening in DR. I know there is a lot of experience, I want grantees have the tools they need to do this work better, more flexible source of funding, more established organization. The problems are going to continue with or without us. So I just want to make sure our grantees have the tools and the skill necessary to continue this work.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Diana, for joining us today, and thank you for doing this work with us. It is truly a joy to do it with you. And thank all of you for both caring about this issue and taking some time to spend with us today. This is really a pivotal year for VOW for Girls. We have really ambitious plans, and we need your support to scale our model and to move more resources into the hands of local partners like those that you've heard about today. As an organization, we're on a mission to unlock tens of millions of dollars to fund the movement to end child marriage. And yes, that is a lot of money, but with a vibrant community of people who value all girls everywhere, they really come together and do extraordinary things. So we really need you in this work. And I'm going to outline here a couple of ways that VOW especially needs help this year. There are so many ways to be a champion for girls alongside our organization, but here are a couple that are top of mind for me today. The first is we ask you to make a financial commitment to support this work, and a financial commitment that's meaningful for you. You can directly support local organizations by making a one-time or monthly gift online. We also make a bold promise of 100% of publicly raised funds going directly to programming like you've heard about today. And that's because of a group of generous private funders that cover our core operating costs. If you're interested in becoming one of our Catalytic Founders Circle members, or you know someone who would love to consider this opportunity, please reach out to me. We'll set up a conversation to share more. The second thing that we really need your help is in spreading the word. We are always welcoming ambassadors who support our work by making a flexible gift and commit to amplifying our efforts by hosting small gatherings, making connections to others, sharing information on your social platforms, however it is that you can best raise awareness. We would love your help on that. The third is what or who are you celebrating this year? Anyone who's getting married or celebrating for any reason this year can directly impact girls around the world by aligning their celebration with VOW, perhaps by reimagining the tradition of gift giving or gift registries. Please encourage your socially conscious friends and family to include VOW in their celebrations of joy. We promise to make it easy to add this deeply meaningful component to any celebration. The next is for our friends who are event professionals. If you're one of our wedding or event industry friends, please encourage your couples or clients to consider including VOW in their celebrations. And we also hope you'll consider becoming a member of our circle that's just for event professionals called VOW Pro. It's a growing, vibrant, global community. We'd love to have you be a part of it. The next is help identify partners for VOW. We partner with value-aligned companies, media platforms, and others that are critical and deeply welcome. Do you work somewhere that could be a good fit for VOW? We'd love to be in touch and talk more. And then lastly, this fall, we're doing a really fun activation. We invite you to help put an end to child marriage by hosting a girls' night with people that you love. These really simple gatherings bring together your friends and family. They help raise awareness and funds for this work. And you can do it however you want. It can be at home or on the town, a microwave meal or a Michelin-starred restaurant, over drinks or over a yoga mat, in person or online. You do it in a way that works for you and your circle. Anywhere you gather with friends can be a space to create change, and more coming into your inbox about that and all these other opportunities. I really hope you'll join us in this movement. We simply can't meet this moment for girls at risk of child marriage this year without your support and your partnership. As I said, we'll be back in your inbox shortly with follow-ups on these and how you can take action, but please never hesitate to reach out to me or anyone on the team. Thank you from all of us at VOW for Girls for spending time with us today. And thank you to Mabel and Diana as well. I hope you all have a wonderful day.